things we're going to talk about later is context graph. That's a super interesting topic. I think it's really relevant, but it kind of plays into this whole concept of like, where does truth come from? What are the systems of truth? Like, how do we put them together and make things that are valuable? And then there's different camps inside of the world today as they look at like AI. Like, how does AI interact with truth? Like, how does it leverage it? And I love this quote that says, it's from Jamin Ball, the more we automate, the more important it becomes that someone has done the unglamorous work of deciding what the correct answer is and where it lives. And like, to me, that's just like a psalm to technical writers, right? Like it's just the exact thing that we think about when we're talking about the value in the industry from an inward-looking perspective.
Yeah. So the way that the rubber hits the road on that one is that one of the things that TechCom people hate is when there's 5 slightly different or maybe 50 conflicting ways of how something is said, or like a process, like different steps in it, or a description with different points in it. TechCom people hate that.
Yeah.
And that also has business impact.
Sure.
Because the no-brainer is translation. At the beginning of my career, the first 7 years, it was like basically I was a tax on translation. Everyone was just, there was so much benefit to be had by structuring your content for translation processes. And then when we would do these audits, is that we would find that there was 50 copies of X process and they didn't quite match. And that means phone calls to support, people making mistakes out in the field. They can be your staff, they can be your customers. Both are really bad. Frustration, loss of brand equity. So those things do translate. Like, what is the right answer? Yeah. And people can't find the right answer and get their jobs done. That is something that everybody cares about. Like, angry customers is something that nobody wants. So I think that being able to put that in those terms, somebody's got to find what the right answer is so that we can get it to the people who need it. Is something you can get people to rally behind.
The people and the systems who need it. So I think that's kind of, there's a tendency to think of, I feel like people either think of AI as being just a computer program or some sentient being, right? And in some ways it's kind of in between. And thinking of it as both a delivery channel but also a delivery endpoint, I think is the right way to think about it. And when I'm thinking about, having the right copy go to the right place, this kind of gets into, if you kind of go inwards, like what is the value of the systems that provide us reuse today? So there are arguments on both sides of this. If you go on LinkedIn and you find the technical writing corners of the internet, you'll see people argue that reuse is totally dead because AI is going to solve all of it. And then you'll also see people on the other side argue that you've never needed reuse more than you do in this very moment. And I'm not sure if either of those characterizations is exactly the right one. I do still think it's critical for the reasons that you kind of implied there, where if there's 50 copies, which one is the right one? I think that you're going to see as much drift in copies when a portion of the drafting is done by AI as you did when the drafting was exclusively human. Maybe that's not true. Maybe we find a way to have a non-deterministic system be deterministic in this one case. But I'm interested to see what you think about that.
So this is one of the reasons that we advocated at Urbina Consulting a lot about looking at AI across the lifecycle. There's a huge, and I should have said that right off the bat, like things that I'm seeing with AI is a lot of like really downstream thinking.
Right.
How can I put it like in front of the customers? How can I put it right, like it's the first step of drafting, editing, etc. We are looking at AI right from planning, strategy. And it's probably a little bit up before even most of where tech comms people are thinking. We're looking at like product strategy and design. Why does this solution fit this market need before I've even built anything?
Yep.
What does the market say? Synthesizing persona data, synthesizing market research into requirements, looking at customer feedback and turning those into product requirements, then designing against those. At every step, AI is incredibly useful. Coming specifically back to your question. If you think about AI as just like a generation assistant, like I'm an author, so I want an authoring assistant AI, then that becomes very confusing in terms of the reuse question. Like, should we reuse, should not reuse? If you think of AI as a planning assistant, before the author has sat down, someone decided what needed to be written. Like the author isn't just composing. Like in tech comms, we don't compose from our souls. We compose to a need. So at that stage is when you should be defining reuse. And that's where an AI can help you surface what you have before you need to reuse it. So when you get a task, what we're seeing in the future is that you're getting a task saying you need to write these bits, you need to reuse these bits, as opposed to you need to write this and you go authors, you go search for what's reusable, which is mostly the current paradigm. And I've been talking about that for 20 years. Like I've been nagging CMS developers to go, like, you provide all this reuse talk in your sales pitches, but then when it comes down to do the work, you provide a search box and tell people to have fun. I think that's always been inadequate. And what we're seeing now is that the algorithms to be able to implement those features where you can be planning requirements for you're planning your tasks for the month or the quarter or whatever, and the AI is helping you proactively surface reuse opportunities. That's much easier. And then when you're actually writing, as you're writing, even more granular or specific reuse opportunities that might come out by taking what's being written as the context to say, hey, actually, you remember the whole Clippy thing? Like,
of course,
it looks like you're writing a letter. So it looks like you're writing a description of whatever screen or widget or function. We've already got this. Not only have we got this, we got 10 copies of this. Maybe you want to look at one of those rather than writing it again, writing an 11th. So I think that is a kind of a no-brainer function.
Yeah.
Of systems going forward is, and I've seen the slides from my clients that say, before you write anything, go search the databases to see if, so that's annoying and people don't like doing it. It's like tagging. Nobody likes tagging. But it's those tasks around the writing that I think that AI will really help with.
I do think that AI will get there. So this will maybe be the first point where we have a little bit of a disagreement here.
Bring it on.
So the whole the system should suggest reuse argument has been going. You just said it, 20 years, right? You've been making that argument. And so Pareto's a CCMS. I've been developing CCMSs for longer than I'd like to admit. The challenge with trying to have the system be the thing that suggests and pushes reuse into the author's hand is that the diversity of information architecture, even if the broad strokes of it are pretty similar, the way that it's implemented at different companies is necessarily different at the point of detail. And so probably every, call it 3 years, we've sat down and been okay, what would we have to solve to be able to effectively push reuse to the author as opposed to having them go and pull it out of the repository. And every time we've done that, we've realized that the thing we were going to build was going to serve 30% of our customers, and it was going to get in the way of the other ones.
How so?
Because the natural tendency when you have those things happen, and actually, this is the thing that I want to talk about when we get to the philosophy at the end, hopefully when we've got a beer in front of us, is to say yes. So one of the challenges with human in loop, please don't follow me down this rabbit hole right now. This is a rabbit hole I want to dive into later. But the tendency of human in the loop and the fallacy of it is that humans just end up going, oh, yeah, sure, beep, yes, right? And it just drops it in.
That's the fallacy?
Yes, that's the fallacy.
Okay.
Because what you end up with is a situation where people don't think critically about what the system is suggesting. And inside of reused structures, you can get reuse in places that you shouldn't use it, and you can create effectively spaghetti content. So to be able to match somebody's intentional reuse, which aligns with their information architecture in a way that is safe, frankly, the best guard for that so far has been human beings. So AI might be the cure.
So wait a second. So you're saying that humans do or don't have a tendency to just say, okay, and
They
accept.
do. They do. That's the challenge.
Okay, so it's not a fallacy.
Well, the fallacy in that human in the loop is going to work is that
Oh,
humans
the
in the
fallacy.
loop.
Okay,
Yeah,
the fallacy that humans will fix it if they're in the
Right.
loop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, no. It's okay. They were agreed
Yeah,
completely on
yeah,
that.
totally. So like that's the, and like I can't wait to talk about this in more detail. But like
Yeah, yeah.
it's also a huge challenge in reuse. It's the fundamental thing that makes system-driven reuse very, very challenging. So I
So-
also want to get there.
Okay, so but I think how I was describing the process is fundamental to that.
Mhm.
I do maybe kind of see it at the authoring stage, like
Yeah.
you're writing a letter. But the first thing I said, and the thing that I is closest to my heart, is this should be done at the planning stage, like operations. And so the human who is actually thinking like, what content do we need? They're actually they are in triage mode. They're not in creation mode.
And so that's where I think you're absolutely right about this going forward. Whereas AI gives you the ability to move the system-driven suggestion upstream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like we're not there yet, but like our system is not a planning system. You know, like this planning typically happens outside of
Which is
Right.
which is
Right.
another one of my bugbears, is that I think to do component content well, the systems should have planning capabilities. We need to be able to, and again, I think this will be facilitated hugely by the kind of the AIs we're seeing now, as opposed to the AIs we had a decade or two ago.
So the interesting thing about this is like this gets into a separate conversation that's kind of fun. Is like where are the edges of component content management systems? And it's funny because they're almost a limitless set of things you can implement into a component content management system. We had a customer at one of the after parties, I think it was at LavaCon, come up and we were just chatting, and he goes, you know, how do you keep your development team interested in implementing new things? Like, how do you make sure like it's not, you know,
The dev team.
yeah, like how do you? I was kind of stunned, and I was like, I'm trying to convince them to not implement as many new things. Like there's an infinite surface of things that we can do inside of component content. It's just such a broad and like also deep technology that like is planning part of it. Like are like, you know, agents that are routing things part of it. Like is ingestion part of it? Is conversion part of it? Like there's just an infinite number of things you can do. So I think in the component content management system that like God or something created, you're probably right. There probably would be planning capabilities, but we haven't gotten there.
Yeah. Okay. I've seen it in a couple. I don't know what it's actually kind of unfortunate, because of the systems that I have seen that have some planning capabilities in them, the rest of the system sucks.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
and
It's like you have to decide where you have to prioritize, right?
yeah. No, it's really unfortunate. It's been very frustrating for me that it's the core functions of the CMS and what I think are a very high value add.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think adjacent. I think they're on the table right there, features which just don't seem to get in. It's rare that I see one CMS that can do the core well and then have those value add things. I'm not a CMS vendor. At the end of the day, I don't have to manage this stuff. I get to sit on the side and couch quarterback. I used a sports metaphor.
You did.
Yes, for those who are listening, that's probably going to be the last one for the next.
We only get one. Yeah, and I think it's armchair quarterback, anyways.
Oh yeah, see,
Okay, you're not American. It's fine.
I just don't know what's happening in the sports ball.